Last time on Mysterious Island.
Owing to a technical malfunction, it may be necessary to bring forward the experiment.
Good afternoon, Sebastian Nile.
Gideon's village.
Sebastian Nile.
Tell me about the future.
Someone is trying to make contact.
Or has he been making things up to deliberately cause trouble?
She's trapped on a ledge that started to collapse.
Our Phantom's finally dead.
Nile and the Phantom are one and the same man, and it's time to confront him.
Penny for your thoughts? Cyrus, what is it? You've been staring into that fire a good while now.
What? Oh, nothing. Just thinking.
You should talk about your worries. Look, maybe I can help.
I'll tell you what preys on my mind, Joanna. Not knowing whether he's alive or dead.
The Phantom? I thought we all agreed that he and Nile were one and the same. He's dead. Surely that's for the best.
I'm not sure. He could have been our only means of ever leaving this island.
Things aren't that bad. We're alive and well. Generally happy enough, aren't we?
We started out as 6. 7 if Ayrton is to be included. Now there are only 4.
You can't blame yourself for the loss of the others.
But I do blame myself, Joanna. So many decisions that I've made have caused misery to those around me. When my father died, and I freed all our slaves, we were forced to leave Virginia by the vicious hatred of our neighbors. Once, our dear friends. The horrors of that time caused my mother's death. And in the struggle to get back to Boston, Elizabeth nearly lost our first daughter, Jennifer. You already know that I wasn't much of a soldier. It was my decision, or lack of it, that led my men to ambush on the day we met, and to my brother Joshua's death. And it was my decision to get into that balloon. We are here because of me. Jack is dead because of me. Neb is dead because of me.
Cyrus, you're not thinking straight. That balloon was our only means of escape. We'd all be dead if not for you.
If it had been I who died instead of Jack, there would be another boat built by now. He had knowledge that was of value to us, but my life's experience counts for little here.
For pity's sake. I do wish Jack was here, but he's not. Nothing will change that. Cyrus, I'm afraid for all of us if you lose hope. Please don't let these dark thoughts enter your mind.
I'm afraid too, Joanna.
What are you afraid of?
Of the future. The place in my mind where the future should rest is a bleak landscape indeed. I see nothing good in front of us. Nothing. It's hard to find a reason to go on.
My. We are glum today, Captain. Modification of human behavior, entry 191. Fear. Even the most resilient of subjects succumb to despair when they lose all hope. I believe the root of that loss is fear. With Cyrus Harding, the fear of failure.
When I close my eyes, I'm haunted by a vision of Herbert. An old man with long white hair and a weathered face. Alone on this island, with nothing to do but tend the graves of those long dead.
I say, steady on, old chap. All this talk of graves, death, depressingly bleak, to say the least. Besides, I'll have you know, I come from a long line of octogenarians, and if anyone is to be left tending the graves, it will be I.
I'm sorry I'm being selfish. Perhaps a walk will make me feel better.
Here. Maybe this'll keep you warm.
It certainly will, thank you. You've done a fine job. What would we do without you?
Ah. How's mine coming along?
Oof, not bad.
Harding's in a bad way. It's no good. No good at all. What about a meal?
What?
What about a slap-up meal? Tonight. Morale raiser.
That's a good idea. How about a bird in clay? You gonna cook it?
I don't think my cooking would do much to raise anyone's morale, but I'll help.
But how much will you help, Gideon?
Oh, I am at your service until the first morsel is served.
Good.
Good. Wonderful.
We can start by filling that.
Righto, I'll just,
Gideon.
No. Perhaps it can wait. It's awfully cold. Looks like rain, Joanna.
Well, this'll keep you warm.
Huh. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Off you go. Remember to keep cheerful. It's a wonderful day.
Yes, yes, a wonderful day. What the?
Great shot, don't you think?
No, I don't.
Ah,
What? Come here!
you'll never catch me.
All right. I'll get you later. By the way, you've taken so long getting the firewood, it's gone out. Joanna and Harding are very unhappy with you.
It's out?
Yes.
Dear Lord, I know I have not been the most faithful of your servants, but I have tried my best to be a fairly decent man. Whatever sins I have committed, for this exile to be my punishment, I ask for your forgiveness. Hear my plea, Lord, and show me the way out of this darkness. I beg you, do not forsake us! Do not forsake us! Do not forsake us! Do not forsake us! You. Do not forsake us! You are alive. Thank you. You think to destroy us, but you shall not. No. It's we who will defeat you. I'm going to find you, sir. Enjoy your last days of mystery.
Well, thank you, Herbert. What have you been doing, growing the trees?
Blast you, Gideon.
What are you mumbling about? And where have you been? Daydreaming again, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like there's a storm coming. It's all right, Herbert. It's all right. I need to look at your leg. I have to remove this material. It's going to hurt a bit. You're lucky. It's just a surface burn. I need something to stop the infection. I don't have anything for burns.
What do you need? There must be something growing on this island.
Good work. There you go. And there. Oh, there was a little drummer and he loved a one-eyed cook. And he loved her and he loved her though she had a cockeyed look.
thunder. We've never had an electrical storm before. Always something new. What about the herbs you used on Neb's eyes? They worked like magic.
No. That was to counteract poison. Unsuitable for burns. Anyway, wouldn't help with the pain. If only there were elder trees here. The berry's the best thing I know for burns. I've seen something similar.
Do you think they might work?
Well, there's a theory that similar-looking plants have similar properties.
Then it's worth a try.
Herbert's leg could very soon become infected. I don't know what else to do.
Can you remember where you saw them?
It was on a high outcrop over the Pirate's Cave. Cyrus, it's a bit of a climb.
Don't worry, I'll find it.
All right.
Nothing can harm me. Well, there was a little drummer. He loved a one-eyed cook. And he loved her. And he loved her though she had a cockeyed look. With one eye in the pot, the other up the chimney. With a...
It's my favorite weather.
Where are you now? Tell me again it's only the fairies moving house. Blow! Winds! Crack your cheeks! Rage. Blow. You cataracts and hurricanes. Spout! Drench the steeples! Drown the cocks! very well. After all, it's a perfectly natural phenomenon. It happens every day, all over the world. One has more chance of being hurt by a runaway horse. I say.
See that thing?
What thing?
That thing that was crawling up my arm.
What was crawling up your arm?
When I tripped into the fire, this thing was crawling up my sleeve. It was huge.
Well, how huge? What exactly did you see?
I don't know. It was some kind of insect or something. Like a giant fly. It was really ugly. You don't believe me?
It's not that I don't believe you, Herbert. I'm sure you saw something that you thought was an insect. Maybe it was the fire casting shadows. Look, Cyrus and I were both here. We didn't see anything.
Look, I know what I saw. I swear it's around here somewhere.
Well, whatever it was, it's not there now.
Well, well. Seems to be well and truly over.
Mother? There it is. Right there, behind that log.
I hope you're not fooling with me, Herbert. You know how I hate crawly things.
Fine, I'll look myself.
All right, stay where you are. Have a look. No, there's nothing here.
Well, it must have moved then. Is it underneath me?
Let's have a look. Oh, Herbert.
Oh, what about by those rocks over there?
I'm afraid I feel more than a little foolish looking for imaginary creatures. All right, that's it. There's nothing here.
The woodpile. Try the woodpile again. Please?
All right. But then that's it. Agreed?
Agreed.
Well, I think we have our creature.
Well, you must admit it looks like a giant insect. Guess I panicked over nothing.
Gideon!
Harding. You stunned me. Well, you've been gathering too, huh? I've done rather well. I've enough food here to last us several days. We're, going to have a bit of a banquet. Birds and clay, that sort of thing. It'd be hard gathering the clay in this weather. Harding, what's up?
I've just seen the Phantom. He's alive.
Well, where? What did he look like?
Well, I only saw him for a moment before he blinded me with a fierce light.
A light? I saw a light through the storm. It was like a beam from a lighthouse, only it was moving.
Then you saw him too. Look, I've got to go back up there. Will you do something for me?
Anything, just ask.
Take these to Joanna as fast as you can. But please, don't tell them what I just told you.
Why not?
Because I don't want them to talk about it. Not in Granite House. Please, just trust me and do as I ask.
Well, let me come with you. Two heads and all that sort of thing.
No, we've got to get this to Joanna. Herbert's been burned.
Herbert's burnt? Well, how badly is he burnt?
Just his leg. He'll mend, but he's in pain and needs this. Thank you.
Harding. Take care, won't you?
I feel somewhat foolish being frightened by a twig. Perhaps I'm getting delirious.
Our eyes sometimes play strange tricks. Cyrus should be back soon with those berries.
Didn't you used to tell me the Elder Tree was magic?
I haven't told you those stories since you were little. I'm surprised you remember.
Well, I quite enjoyed them. What was it you would say?
Well, the Elder Tree has been used as a potent herb since the beginning of time. It was said to be the most powerful tree in all the land, and the Old Ones both feared and respected it. A man would always doff his cap as he passed the tree as a mark of respect. And it was considered very unlucky to damage the tree. Woe betide anyone who did so, because a terrible fate would surely befall them. The tree was known as an affrighter of demons, and the local undertaker would always carry a piece of elder in his pocket to ward off the evil spirits associated with the dead.
A magical plant indeed.
You know where I come from. Babies' cribs are never made of elder. It's said that the powerful female spirit of the tree might come and steal away the baby.
You know, I never really believed all those myths.
You didn't?
Just superstition.
Well, what do you think superstition is now?
Tales? Just stories to frighten children into behaving themselves. They're not actually true.
Well, I wouldn't be too sure about that. Those stories don't spring from nowhere, and only a fool would put them to the test.
Well, then I'll have to remember not to use elderwood to build cradles for my babies.
I wonder where Cyrus has got to. Herbert! Herbert, get it off me! Hurry! Hurry! Sweet Lord, what was that?
That's what I was talking about.
Oh well. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's Gideon. I better go and see what the matter is. Why don't you come and wait outside?
No, I want to find this thing.
All right. Well, how am I supposed to get you out of there?
You might try pulling me out.
Think I'm coming any closer to that bog, you're mistaken. Just a minute. Here. Try and grab this.
Oh, good idea. Yes, well done.
Can you get it?
Got it. Look out!
Can you get up?
Yes, I'm fine. No. These little fellows won't harm you. This is merely another form of grasshopper. Found only in the Antipodes. It's quite harmless, a little ugly. Fascinating, hmm? Thank you, Joanna. Careful. These are sensitive creatures. You'll frighten them.
Look, I don't care if they are harmless. Get them out of here.
Well, they generally make their home in the rotting wood. So my guess would be they must have come in with the last load of firewood. I'd like to keep that one for a pet. Most interesting.
Oh, no, you don't, Gideon. If you're so fond of them, you can gather up the whole lot of them and take them as far away as possible. I never want to see them again as long as I live. There's one there.
Subject security of the Nautilus, entry number 872. A most distressing day. A short circuit in the apparatus caused by an electrical storm. And a close call with the subject, Cyrus Harding, has left me with the reminder that without the protection of my instruments, I am vulnerable. I shall take immediate steps to improve my security.
That feels wonderful.
Good. Another remedy to add to the apothecary.
It works so fast, it's amazing. It's almost like magic.
Well, that's the last of them, then.
Do you know where Cyrus went?
I didn't say. I'm afraid I'm finding it more and more difficult to understand him. It's like he's in a world of his own.
I know. I'm worried about him, too. Still so many strange things have happened here. It's like the island has a mind of its own.
None of us are without our fears.
Cyrus.
Did the plant help? How are you feeling?
Not too bad.
Well enough to take a walk? The weather's much improved.
A walk. Yes. Wonderful idea.
Right.
You sure you're up to it, Herbert?
Ah, I can manage. Thank you.
Modification of human behavior, entry 191. Fear. Even the most resilient of subjects succumb to despair when they lose all hope. I believe the root of that loss is fear, with Cyrus Harding. Fear of failure.
I've got something very important to tell you.
I can barely hear you here.
That's why we came. You can barely hear me. He can't hear at all. Today, I looked straight into the eyes of our Phantom.
What?
What do you mean?
It's true. Listen to what Harding has to say.
I saw him as close as I am to you. He's alive and very much immortal. An extraordinary inventor, I give you that, but the man himself is no supernatural. He's made contraptions with which he's somehow able to watch and listen to all that we do. It's my belief that he has concealed these instruments all over the island, and that is how he is able to know so much, and how he can always be one step ahead of us.
Go on.
But the only really important thing, I'm certain that he has the ability to come and go from this island at will. Which means...
If he can go, so can we.
Exactly.
Well, what do you propose, Captain?
To go to him, confront him, find out who he is. There must be some way we can get him to help us. He is human after all.
How will we find him?